Hi everybody and welcome to Claymore Division's game review. Once again, I'm Brad Harmer.
And I'm Amy Ribrick.
And today we're going to be taking a look at Osprey War Games of Gods and Mortals. I know you kind of took the lead of this.
Yes, this was. I was quite excited about this coming out actually. I don't remember where I first spotted it, but it was a lot of people were really looking forward to it, and we managed to get a scoop thanks to Osprey. It delivered, to be perfectly honest.
Mm-hmm.
We can get to the sort of nitty gritty of it, but it's, in terms of purely on the book, nice size. It's an Osprey size book with a war game inside of it. What more do you want?
Mm-hmm. It's good layout, good.
Yeah, well, the basics for anybody that doesn't know is that Of Gods and Mortals is a mythological war game system, is what it calls itself, and it basically allows you to pit gods such as Thor and Ares and Zeus and Conanus and all the gods from the different mythologies against each other with all their legends like Hercules, the Midgard serpent, and ones from Egypt.
Set.
Yeah, he's a god.
Yeah. Or a hero from Egypt.
Yeah.
Moses.
Actually, yeah, he's in here.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. So the four pantheons that are covered in here are Norse mythology, Greek mythology, Celtic mythology, Egyptian mythology. They're always known as kind of the big four. Actually, it's always the big
Moses,
three.
apparently.
Yeah, Moses. Actually, it's always known as the big three, and I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, that's really nice that they've covered Celtic." There's gods like Conanus and Epona that a lot of people don't know about, which is quite nice because it's obviously the Celtic gods, not only of Ireland and Scotland, and certainly the Welsh gods as well, but it's also the Celtic gods of Gaulia and that lot.
That's got to be quite a tough one because there are still people of pagan and Wiccan faith.
Yeah, same with the Norse ones. There are still, I mean, like I said, Thor's hammer, but there are people who openly pray and sacrifice and devote their lives to
Egyptian and Roman as much.
No, I don't think.
To do.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want to put a biblical figure like Moses in.
Part C's is quite powerful.
Kill the firstborn.
Or just one of every true type. So the game runs in a 3-tier system. You have gods, legends, mortals. So for instance, in my Norse group that I put together, my god was Thor. I had Fafnir the dragon, Fenris wolf, a Valkyrie, and the captain of the Varangian Guard. And then as my mortal troops, I had 16 Varangian Guard. For my Greeks, I had that, and then there was Spartans, and there was Ares, and things like that.
Leonidas you had as well?
Leonidas was in there leading
one of
the
your
300.
What was interesting was one of your own creation as well.
Oh yeah, well that's the great thing about the game is actually not only can you use all the predetermined characters, there is a character development system. So not only can you generate a character, so for instance, Fafnir the dragon wasn't in here, so I created that using their rule system, which made him balanced. Because if you overbalanced him, his point cost would be so high that you then wouldn't be able to have X, Y, and Z. Therefore, you'd be a lacking team. Much the way I think in most games when
How easy is the character creation?
Very easy, very easy indeed. You look up how well you want it to fight. That's a point cost.
Okay.
If you want it to be a legend, you double it. If you want it to be a god, times 4, and then you add its attributes. You want flying, that's 15 more points. I can't remember them all, obviously. Character creation is so easy to the point where I've already kind of thought about different pantheons and religions and books and movies you could make them out of. We were talking, me and a friend the other day, were talking about making Kratos from God of War into the god of this game. Of course, it's a little bit harder to have anything underneath him, but then he would make a really
because he would kill them.
Well, exactly. He'd make a really good legend that maybe one of the Greek gods could
Ares
get.
Or something,
yeah, something like that. Probably not Ares. Yeah, that wouldn't.
I think he kills everyone. Maybe it could be a one-man army.
Yeah, so we just created a 900-point soldier. But yeah, so it's very much like the Lord of the Rings games, where if you play what's the You Big Shall Not Pass fella? What's that? Balrog.
Yeah.
Balrog. If you play the Balrog, you probably haven't got much for anything else.
So
you might have a Balrog and an orc. Yeah. So you that's the same in this game.
Yeah.
So yeah, character creation and putting together these armies was some of the most fun I've ever had with miniatures. I mean, obviously, my main game that I play a lot more is Saga, and that you can buy Viking figures here, and you can buy Saxon figures and Norse and Norman figures. You can get those everywhere. Trying to track down Zeus, was a lot more fun. I've had so many sort of make do's and really had to teach myself modelling and
Yeah.
and conversions, and there's so many great websites out there I've learnt from.
We have some here. Shall we hold
We
those
have
up?
some of the little conversions.
These models we're about to show you are not commercially available for Of Gods and Mortals. There is a miniature design for Of Gods and Mortals.
There is
in
North
production.
Star Figures making it.
Yeah, not out yet,
Unfortunately, not some of the main figures are out.
Okay.
Unfortunately, obviously, as this was a review copy and we got it early, I couldn't
didn't
have
have
bought
to
me
explain
even if
it.
I tried.
Yeah.
So
Some of these are custom figures.
yeah,
I think where you can
all of
where you can
all but one of
reference
these has
sources-
not been modified at
Yeah,
all.
where you can reference sources, probably a good idea too.
Yes.
But don't go looking for these to buy them because this is.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you know where they came from because
Yeah.
first
You
off,
wanna
let's start with
Shall I hold up
so
for you?
if
You
you
can
want,
give it a talk.
this is Ares. He is a conversion of the Seventh Voyage by Crooked Dice. I think I can never remember which one he is, but he's a nice big plastic figure. That I added the shield, the hammer, the base, obviously, and painted him up differently. I think he's meant to be very robotic.
He really looks like the giant bronze guy from Jason and the Argonauts.
Yes, yeah. So I painted him up as Ares, gave him the red eyes and the big mace, and the shield is actually the
I was
bottom
going
of
to tilt this up now so you can see the base because that paintwork is superb.
Cheers, man. Actually, I wish we'd been filming. As I got it here, I went, oh look, they've all survived. As I lifted him out of the bag, dropped him, smashed off his base, hammer and shield came off. It was great fun.
Yeah,
The shield,
we need a camera team on us all the time.
the shield, and here's a tip that if you're buying, I mean, this is a big figure. I should have brought a 28mm man with me, and that's the kind of scale of this game. That shield is the bottom of a soft drinks can with a boar's head stuck to it. So that was that. Fenris. No, that's going to be can't see. That is actually a Heraclix Warg with his rider.
Sabretooth Games system.
It's not actually Heraclix, is it?
No, Heraclix is a brand name. This was
Yes.
Lord of the Rings Tradable Miniatures game, which it was when the films were out, so probably about 10 years ago now.
So Brad donated that to the cause. It was brown. I turned it horrible. Okay, I don't know if you'll see the red eyes. Unfortunately, it had reins on it. But then I realised that the Fenris Wolf is bound under the earth by tears, so I thought, well, it just looks like he's broken those a bit.
You got to save him till last.
Yeah, I want to say that. This is Thor, which was actually the first piece of heavy conversion. I've done some, hair and bits and bobs there. That is from the Hobbit blind bag Dwalin figure that I picked up in a toy shop, reduced to £1.
Middle-earth inspired Vikings?
So it's a dwarf being what he was always written to be. Of course, originally he was bald. He didn't have the big luxurious beard. He wasn't wearing any chainmail. He didn't have the hammer. All the chainmail I put on and everything like that. That was a really good fun sort of learning curve. Again, so many blogs and bits and bobs. And I expect actually I could probably do an entire video on all the blogs and things I learned from. But that was good fun. And this is the Grandmaster.
This is Barry.
This is Barry the Fafnir Dragon. Ready? Dramatic. Not all of your figures have to be the most expensive thing you can find.
Absolutely.
This was £2.99 from a toy shop. I do intend to actually sculpt a dragon, but as this game was fast approaching its release date, I wanted to get the game on the table. That was £2.99, and it's horrible.
It is.
You can just kind of...
It's got kind of Exorcist green sick
pull
on
the
this.
wings off.
It's got an Exorcist green sick on its face.
It is, it's absolutely... But it did pretty well, and it's the exact scale that I want my dragon eventually to be, so... so...
Cool to see, thanks so much.
I should probably start sort of posting up on the Facebook group all the pictures and bits and bobs of the models I convert.
There is a Facebook group.
There is, yeah. But back to the actual game that they're used for. It's an absolutely solid piece of gameplay. The system of the 3 tiers works really well. You have things such as when the gods die, and they can't die, that's the idea. When they get knocked out of gameplay, the mortals can pray them back in.
Okay.
Which is a great mechanic. We did find when we play tested it, that gets a little bit, oh, he's back.
Yeah.
He's back again. There are more than one way to win it. It's not like in for instance, Saga, which is like training game, is kill the warlord, it's done. Yeah. In this case, you can kill the warlord and you just carry on and win. Mm-hmm. There are other ways of doing it, but I think what's really interesting is the game's tactics. Your tactics have to change as the game progresses. You will be aiming for their god when all of a sudden he turns into a boar and runs off, and now all of a sudden Perseus is over there leading 300 Spartans, 16 Spartans, and that's how you win the game. Now the god isn't important because he's running away and he's full of poison, and so I think when this game starts getting bigger and starts getting more competitive, I think it will it will mean that maybe children can beat serious players. Because you can get a lucky strike.
There's a lot of chaos, a lot of randomisation.
A lot of chaos, yeah. A lot of what seems to be...
Is there so much randomisation you feel it unbalances the game?
Not so much with the randomisation. What I think tends to unbalance the game, apart from my inability to put together balanced army lists, was it's this the mechanism by Andrea Sviloigi. Is based on a game I think called A Song of Blades, which he wrote before, which had the activation system, which is to pick how many dice you'd like to activate a particular unit, roll them, a success is a success, a fail is a fail, against their quality score, which sounds more complicated than it actually does play out to be. However, for every failure you roll, your opponent gets one reaction. Mm-hmm. That's fine, and for every 2 reactions they fail.
Initiative.
Yeah, the idea is that it's a momentary lapse in confidence. The mortals are trying to move forward, but they all of a sudden lose their faith in their god. But then they decide they can move, but it's too late because the dragon has already moved forward, which has shaken them again. That's what he's trying to replicate. What actually happens is it makes the game quite stop and start.
That's why I would go so far as to say the activation system was laborious. It was each unit you've got to roll to see if it can move that turn, and then if you fail one, then your opponent takes a turn. But we found rather than being okay, that sounds quite. So what actually happened was I moved and then I failed. So you reacted. But, so it is still my turn.
Yeah,
and that was.
And there's no way you could do it by just having... I remember the first ever war game I played was the Lord of the Rings... The first ever miniatures game was the Lord of the Rings war game. Mm-hmm. I found they had a little token that you handed to the person with whose movement it was.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that with this.
No.
Because it's so boom, boom, boom. And I like that. I like that battle doesn't happen whereas side A goes, side B goes, and then they fight.
Yeah.
This is meant to be like this troop coming up the flank, but this one has advanced. Now, do you move this guy?
I am in favour of innovation and trying new things in gaming. But I think... I Go, You Go and random activation have stuck around so long because they work. And
yes.
This kind of mix of the two doesn't really work. If it was I Go, You Go, you might feel a bit, it's an I Go, You Go system, but at least you could keep track of whose turn it was.
You know what I think?
If it was random activation, like a lot of GMT games, like Bolt Action, something like that would actually flow better, I think.
What the difference is, and I've not played A Song of Blades, I think that's meant to be for... I mean, I certainly downloaded the demo PDF just before this we got this copy, just to have a little look. Mm-hmm. And it seemed to be that the demo game and anything beyond... The demo game was 3 miniatures per side.
Right.
And the bigger game seemed to be 10. Whereas with this game, I mean, I had on one army, you've got your God, 4 mortals, 16... God, 4 legends, 16 mortals. Mm. Now, the mortals move on movement trays, and actually, there's 2 different types of movement tray, and one of them is just a CD, which is really cool. That means they can move around on it. But, yeah, so I think it's much like some war games we played where it's made for limited miniatures, and the system maybe needed to be adapted a little bit.
Okay.
I do like the activation system. I love the combat system. Roll 1 dice, add your attack score. If it's greater than the other one, you win. If it's greater than the other guy by 3, you get a kill. Yeah. So easy. And it did mean, actually, it's hard to do, but one single Spartan can walk up to Thor and slay him.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I must have watched Wrath and Clash of the Titans so many times in preparing to play this. And that is actually what it feels like playing.
Feels like Harryhausen movie.
Oh yeah. It really feels that you can create heroes, and I can see a campaign coming out of it. And you said to me just before recording that actually an RPG based around it would be. That's why
I came out of it thinking it's such a great idea in that it's Ragnarok, it's Armageddon, but it's not just the Christian Armageddon or the Norse Ragnarok. It's all happened all at the same time, and that's a great fantasy setting.
And also you can then do Thor versus Loki. It hasn't got to be the pantheons fighting against each other.
No, true.
And some of the thematics in it, I mean, as a nut for this kind of mythology, for instance, Loki has to have... Hel has to have certain troops of the undead in her force. Loki can't have that. Thor can't have the Midgard serpent or any giants because that's who he wants to kill. Things like that. And what I can imagine people doing is taking Thor, renaming him Thyer, and being able to have him have giants, and that's not really in the spirit of the game.
Yeah.
I hope people don't start doing that. I could certainly see that's the way I went. I created Perseus without realising that Perseus was already in it.
Just
skipped past his entry, created it, and then went, oh, actually, no, he's got this and this. So I reverted back to the original one I had, and that was where my unbalanced armies came from.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, certainly from the modern Clash of the Titans, I made the skeleton. The scorpion, which was I should have brought that because that was a pound shot scorpion on a piece of blister pack see-through plastic.
Mm-hmm.
Should probably do. There's a little aside. Plastic bases, see-through plastic bases for models, makes them look like they're walking on whatever they're actually walking on. Somebody package this before I do, because I'll do it terribly.
It's true, he will.
But yeah.
But, no, to be fair, most of those miniatures are amazing.
Yeah, apart from dragons. I'm going to try... Now I'm going to stay on camera, so I have to do it. I'm going to try to sculpt Briog the dragon from Flight of Dragons at some point. Now I'll put myself under pressure to actually give it a try at some time, so...
Where can I keep track of your progress?
Occasionally I post up on the Facebook group. Facebook.com. They know where that is.
Yeah, /group/Claymore Division. Yeah.
Claymore. That'll be where I'll be putting those bits and bobs.
Yeah.
I might do even a couple of my Saga armies and bits and bobs. The game for me, if I judge it, I want to give it higher because I'm just so excited for it, and it is great. It's more fun to get ready for than to play. For me, if I judge it up against my favourite war games, this can only really go to a 7.5.
Okay. Out of 10 for record.
Out of 50. It's just like, I really enjoy this, but when this happens, and I find that my favourite war games, I don't go but.
Who would you recommend it for?
Me. So thanks, Osprey.
Yeah.
It's not so much for the history nuts.
Yeah, this is a slight departure from stuff.
Yeah, it's not when we normally strictly historical, obviously, and this is mythological. And it does give you that wonderful element.
Crossover interest.
Yeah, it does give you that wonderful element of having, Thor fight a dragon and things like that. That's great fun. But there are some really, really good historical points in it, and the research has been so well done. The artwork, I mean, it's Osprey. It's just there are paintings in here. I mean, I guess some of them are commissioned. I've just opened up to one of King Arthur slaying the Boar King, which is a story I didn't even know about until I looked in this book, and then I read it up and found a thoroughly lovely story on some sort of free book downloady thing because it's public domain.
I suppose it was
King Arthur, isn't it?
Yeah.
So again, Claymore Division's about learning from your gaming and from your history.
Yeah. So 100%. What did you feel you learned from it?
That story, I learned a lot more about Greek mythology. I knew most of the Norse tales, but the Greek mythology tales. I bought myself a Greek mythology book. Yeah. I've read the thing from start to finish, from the creation and all the little bits and bobs like that, all the way up to
Egyptian.
And Egyptian. I've learned so much.
You don't know, do you? No. Moses.
I really want an Egyptian army just because there's so much blue and gold. It's so pretty.
It's going to score a bit lower from me. I know you're more into the modelling side of it, and I think a large part of that for you is the fun you've had modelling. So if you're into modelling or customisation or anything like that, yeah, I can see you have a lot of fun with this. But for me, the combat system is simple, and simple is good. I don't necessarily want every game to be advanced squad leader, when sometimes you want to play Thunder Road.
Yeah. Sometimes you want to throw 3 dice and make things go boom.
Yeah. But the activation system kills it dead in the water for me. It's that any game where the core mechanic causes you to lose track of whose turn it is a flaw. I'm keen to see what I think it kills itself if it wanted to get any kind of tournament following, because as you said, the creation laws allow themselves open to abuse.
Make anything. Yeah. You can make anything.
It would. You could make the Christian God and just smite everything.
Yeah, well, the rules do say your god can be no more than a third of the points of your army.
Okay,
but a starter game is 900 points. What they say is a more sort of regular game is 1200, which I think you should imagine be tournament rules. But that still gives you. I mean, Thor is 300 odd points. So and that's Thor, who I think he's the kind of poster boy for it. So I should imagine they've kind of upped him a little bit.
I think it's a great idea for a setting, and as I said to you, and we said during the show, I think a role-playing game where every now and again you get to a fight scene and decide to play this, it would be amazing. You'd have great fun doing that. I think, again, I'm not sure it's going to find an audience, because fantasy gamers have fantasy games and historical games have historical games, and it's not necessarily a point against it, but I think it's gonna find hard getting any kind of traction. It is very niche.
I can see what you mean.
But
I hope it does.
The internet and the world is a big place. Hopefully, it can find some people who do like it.
Yeah.
It's good. I'm going to give it a 5 because to me it is a good idea done badly.
Okay.
As I say, the setting and some of the rules I love, but I just keep coming back to the activation system. Really great. If it had been chip pull or anything like that, I'd have absolutely loved it.
Yep.
But it is that stop start kills it for me. So that's 1.5 and 7.5.
Averages out at.
Sure, 12 and a half out of 20 is 6.25. Brad maths.
Fuck. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, that's dinosaurs, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my god, we've got to make a Jurassic Park group. You can have poison.
Of Gods and Mortals from Osprey War Games is available now. Until next time, this is Claymore Division. See you soon.
Release the Kraken!